Oh, I'm happy, Jackie. If you wanna, are you good too?
Let's go.
Okay,
Let's
all
go.
right, good deal. I'm Allison Venuto. I am a new board member along with Jackie. We joined the board about 6 months ago, and I live in the Dallas area. And I see my coordinators are here, so I'm just saying hi to you guys over there. And I will let you go, Jackie.
Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze, so I apologize if I sneeze in the middle of my introductions. Hello, it's good to be with you. I am Jackie Saxon, as Allison has said, and I live currently in Des Moines, Iowa, part of the Central Iowa chapter. In fact, my coordinator is not here because we just had our meeting right before this, and she has another meeting to go to. But I also have a personal affinity to the Austin chapter because that is how I became part of the American Pilgrims. And so Denise is here on behalf of that chapter. So I'm sort of kind of pulled in two different directions, but it's not being they're not being opposing pulls. They're both basically going in the same direction. But delighted to be with you today, new board member, and we're happy to talk about what's been going on and also to answer any questions or at least get an idea of questions that you all might have. But I really want to start by just thanking you for what you do. Each one of you as chapter coordinators, you are awesome. And your chapters are growing and blowing and having lots of fun, even in the midst of a pandemic. And I know that that in and of itself creates all kinds of challenges. How do we do this thing we call Camino when we can't physically be close? But you all have found creative ways to stay in touch and to keep in touch. And so I know on behalf of the board, I think I can speak that we are very much appreciative of all of your efforts. This is a volunteer organization and you put in a lot of time, and we want you to know how much we appreciate that. So those are my opening remarks. Allison?
So the first thing that we were going to talk about is to give you guys a bit of an update on what the board has been working on. And so, as Jackie said, one of the great things that we've been working on is connecting with chapters and our coordinators and our members and doing that in various ways. We know that you guys are having events, and so you're talking about those with your the folks in your chapters that are coming to your events in your different cities. We know that some of you are posting that on the Facebook group. And so we're looking for ways to support y'all and what y'all are doing. And so that's one of the things that we are here to help you with. So if you have ideas, of course, we would love to take those from you. But Jackie, do you want to talk a little bit more about that? I'm just looking down our
Yeah, I'm
list here of
looking.
things.
We have a cheat sheet, y'all, because
We do.
we have to remember what we're supposed to be talking about. Yeah, what does the here? As far as what shall we do here, Allison? What is the board working on? I mean,
Yes.
we just had a board meeting last Friday and Saturday, and it was a full 2 days. The board is for 11 people. We're doing an awful lot trying to make sure that we touch all of the aspects of American Pilgrim life. Many of the times you all have been wondering, for example, about grants. You know, the grant cycle is upon us, meaning we have sent out, Ruben Mendoza has sent out for applications to come in, and that goes until I believe first part of February.
February
Yeah,
1st. Yep,
February
that's right.
1st. So we will know better what the needs are in Spain and Portugal and France once we have received back the applications, and that team is working together to see what we can do on their behalf. We're not quite sure because we don't really know what the needs are now that things have changed so much, but just rest assured that the grants team is up and active and it is working on that, and we will have more information once we have a better feel for exactly who has applied and what is the need and how can American Pilgrims help support the Camino. So,
And to piggyback on what Jackie just said too, one of the things that the grants team is doing too, is to put together some videos. So we have some ideas about what are those needs. So instead of us just talking about them, we'll have pictures and interviews and things like that. And so that really dovetails into our communications team, which we are working to get I think you guys hopefully saw La Concha this I guess probably
Yeah,
3
December.
weeks ago came out. Yeah, the December.
December
It was amazing. They've done so many wonderful things. I think I see some names that were mentioned in there that are on this call too. And so they're really working hard to get information and ideas from y'all. You may be, if you have something great that's going on in your chapter, we may reach out to you about doing a story or something like that about some of the things that are going on. But really looking at keeping that communication going so that we're passing information to y'all, but also y'all are passing information to us so that we can get those to pilgrims around the United States as well.
Right. That's a great thing. I would say also too, as we're thinking about what things we're working on, and we're kind of ping-ponging this a little bit, but I would highlight external relations. American Pilgrims is not just an insulated group. We have relationships with several organizations in Spain, as well as beyond Spain, in France and in England and all over. And Carmen is, I've forgotten what Carmen's last name is. Oh, horrible
Marriott.
at last names. Carmen
Marriott.
Marriott is really spearheading some of that external relations conversations and understanding kind of what's going on with the Camino in other parts of the country and in the world, really. And so she's done some really good work along with her team on that. So what's next, Allison?
I was just going to talk about some of our goals.
The electronics, that really helps because at the chapter level, most of our communication with our members now is electronic. It is remote. And so we can better share that information with our members, and which essentially leads to membership, encourages membership. So it's great.
Yeah, we're going to do, I think Megan in particular, and I'm so bad with last names of our members, our board members, but Megan is also one of the newbies with me and Allison, and she has come on to the communications team and the committee and is really doing a wonderful job of really helping to enhance that and make our communications with you and with each other and others more robust and easier to access so that you can make sure that it gets sent out to all of those that you touch. So, but you were going to say, Allison, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just going to move to one of the other things that we were going to talk about were goals and challenges as well. And obviously, one of our goals this year is to continue to keep that pilgrim spirit alive, to continue the conversation with y'all, to continue to support you as you're working with the pilgrims who are in your groups, in your cities, and to continue that as, maybe some of us are walking virtually or we're walking from home or things like that, as the kind of uncertainty of the Camino hopefully becomes more certain and more open and all of that as time passes. But to continue that relationship and that conversation, even if it is a digital one or a virtual one, that we're continuing to have those conversations with you guys and share information as we get it, that it's also coming to y'all as well. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill, was that your hand up? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I thought you were like giving me a high five over there.
No. Well, that
Okay.
too, but I just wanted, I apologize for being late, everyone. I had a competing meeting. We're working on reviving a chapter in Arizona. So I wanted to step in there and say hello to those folks and wish them well on their efforts to get that going again. So actually really excited to be here. I was so pleased to see all these people come in and join us for this meeting. Thank you, Vince, for putting it together. I appreciate it. I've been on the board for about a year. I'm sure pretty much everybody that's here has had some form or fashion of contact with me, either through email or through directly. But so I'm happy to be here and happy to talk about all the things that are good things that are going on with the board and across chapters. One of the things that I don't know if Jackie or Allison, if I don't want to steal your thunder, but I was going to talk about the chapter goals and priorities that we talked about a little bit. I think that's something that people would be most interested in. And so we have, I would say, 4 or 5 primary goals. And first and foremost, I think, as we kind of talked about things that we wanted to accomplish in this year is a real important one is to foster and cultivate unified culture of we versus us. And what we mean by that is, so often I hear, well, the national organization wants this way and chapters is this way, and they kind of view things separately, like, we're not one and the same. And I think we're going to try to do away with that. And specifically, an example of that is, the way we describe folks that are involved with the organization. We've struggled a lot with, chapter members versus chapter participants. And so one of the things we thought would be a good idea was to just call everybody a pilgrim and don't distinguish or discern. And everybody that's involved is a pilgrim, and that we welcome as part of our welcoming spirit, that we welcome everyone regardless of whether they're members or not. And across chapters, everybody's the same, has the same. We're all Peregrinos. So there's more on that. And that really kind of goes in tune with developing some synergies between chapters, membership, and grants. And what we mean is that one of the most important things we're working on this year is to we're taking a hard look at what value we bring to membership, and basically the content and the information and the events that we host, whether it's virtual or physical, that we basically make sure that we have these good synergies that we have across, so that everybody understands and all the information is shared, and that people understand what's important about grants, what's important about membership and chapters and other programs, including hospitarial programs. So that's another goal. And then a couple other things is, and I know this is one that we talked about last year or last year, I guess now in the workshop, was to talk about training needs. So I'm most interested in hearing from folks here about what they think they need for help in terms of assistance, and what things would help you run your chapters better or be more successful. And that including some training, whether it be MailChimp or Zoom or whatever the topic, or just basically, what are the things I can do to help bring people into the chapter and get involved. Another thing we're looking at is Allison and I are working on this specifically, and Vince as well, is to look at a virtual coordinator workshop. So I know in the past it's always been held in conjunction with a national gathering, and we've had increasing attendance as far as chapter coordinators attending them. But this year we're going to do it virtually, and hopefully we'll have everyone in it, everybody, at least one person from every chapter across the country attend, and we're looking at various different topics. So I'll let Allison, you want to talk about some of the things that we're thinking about in terms of workshop presentations or training classes or seminars?
Yes, and I may miss something, so Bill, feel free to jump in too. But what we were thinking about doing is doing some sessions on technology to maybe help some folks who maybe had questions about how to use Zoom, or some of the other technology that you guys might be using as chapter coordinators, and then also doing some different topics, but then allowing folks to choose. And so, maybe we have some topics that are geared a little bit more to newer chapter coordinators, and some that were geared to folks who've maybe been leading and looking for, some other ideas for events and stuff like that might be happening. We're thinking about doing it in a morning. And so it would be, kind of a 9 to noon Central Time kind of time period. And then we'd have various coordinators leading various topics, maybe some board members and stuff like that, but hearing from lots of different voices and all of that as well.
So that's going to be coming to you soon, and we're hoping to have that put in place, or have something on the schedule sometime at the end of March, which would be traditionally when the workshops were held, along with the gatherings in the past. So we'll be working on that, and there's more to come on that. And then a couple other things we're looking at is to take another peek at the annual survey and see if there's things that we can do to hone it to make it better, and specifically, the questions that are being asked about, looking for different forms of feedback from all of you across the country. And then lastly, and this is really incumbent upon everyone that's involved as a coordinator, is to basically work together and try to identify some best practices and communication across chapters, that incorporates common language like the Pilgrim example I gave, the context and information to basically help us promote membership. So I don't know if everyone's aware, but since the pandemic hit, we've had a really tough year as far as membership, and it really relates to, frankly, I think Steve put it in the last La Concha, was that with new members, people not going on the Camino, we've seen a fairly substantial decline in new membership, and we're holding our own as far as renewals, but new members, we're not getting the same volume that we were in the last couple of years, just because of the pause on the Camino. So, but anyway, those are the goals and principles, or goals and objectives for priorities for this year for chapters. It'd be interesting in hearing feedback on that, and as well as what other things you might think we should be looking at. So,
Bill, there was a question in the chat that said, are there past meetings somewhere for new chapter leaders to review? And I'm not sure about that since I'm new. Do you know of old?
Is there old meeting board meetings or just chapter meetings?
I think
not
maybe
sure.
chapter
That was
meetings.
my question.
Coordinator sessions.
The coordinator meetings, because I've been
The
to
workshop
2
meetings?
or
Oh.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Which we tried to do that last year. It didn't work. We had mixed success with taping the sessions, I know. But so the answer is yes, but they're not very good at what we had last year. But this
Well,
year,
you're
I
really
think
good
with
with
the
the
virtual-
We have the notes from before. Barbara Zhang
Yeah.
transcribed all our workshop sessions. Those should be available to new and existing leaders in the
I will-
materials.
I will look for them and see if we can find them. And if I can't, I'll talk to Barb and see if we can find those notes from prior workshops. That's what you're asking for, right? And so where I'll put those, or where we'll put those, we'll put them in the library, in the coordinator resource library, if we can locate them. So,
Linda, I saw you, and then Sharon, I see you next.
You talking to me?
Yes.
I have this prediction that when we're able to go back to the Camino and we're safe, I think we're going to be flooded with activity. I feel it in my chapter. I feel people are bristling to go. I have a number of people that are reaching to me going, what do you know? What do you think? And so I think we need to prepare for this floodgate of people to go, and how to prepare them and support them. That's what I predict. I think people are chopping at the bit to go, me included. So
I agree,
would you
Linda. Thank
suggest that
you.
we come up, so what do you suggest we do in terms of, from your perspective, what are the things that we should be doing to prepare for that onslaught of
I think
folks?
in my own chapter, I think, kind of prepare yourself for what's going to come, because we're in this like weird quiet time. And I have people reaching to me from my chapter going, what do you know? When are we going to get together? And I think it's going to be a slow coming back as far as us socializing physically together. I'm going to take it really slowly. But I think when the world gets better, I think the Camino is going to be swamped. I really do. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and what a lovely thing. And I think it might be overwhelmingly swamped. That's my
Well,
guess.
I hope that we're prepared for an onslaught of credentials requests.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting 40 to 50 people every other week at our webinars. And everybody wants to go, and we're doing a webinar on each route and on different topics. So we are getting 40 to 50 people, and a good mix of veterans and not yet walked pilgrims. So
Lisa,
absolutely,
what chapter are you with, Lisa?
Boston.
Okay.
So we've done, I think, 5 now. We've got 4 more on the books. But I think every chapter should be doing a Camino 101 online to help people get ready. And
We've started if someone joins our chapter, which are very few right now, we are offering them a Zoom visit, and we get to know them via Zoom. We'll see how that goes. But it's been very quiet. But I think it's going to really pick up. I really do.
Thanks. Sharon, I saw your hand up a while ago. You're on mute, Sharon. Sharon, you're on mute.
Okay, my list has grown exponentially. Boss, one of the things that I think that we should do is attend other people's sessions. So Lisa, I'm gonna look for you, and I'm gonna try to attend some of these sessions that you're giving, some of this, because it's a new thing we have to learn. I just finished a Camino 101 session on Saturday. I had 2 new pilgrims that actually showed up. My ability to reach out to new pilgrims is really diminished. That's okay. I'm all right with that. One of the things that I have done and have published and set up for my pilgrims in my chapter, El Pueblo Tucson, is resources to look at for Spain, like El País has an English language weekly newsletter that I get every Saturday morning. I found out what's going on in Spain. Ivor's videos, he does them every week, and he talks about Santiago. I post those in our Facebook group. A lot of my pilgrims in my group they're not into Facebook, but I have converted them because of the resources that I can give them. I think what, Bill, you asked what we could do. You could send me to Spain in November, and I'll give you all the lowdown on it. But anyway, I think it's going to be very interesting, and that's one of the problems is that we're talking on, when you're doing a Camino 101, you're talking about what you know, and what you know no longer exists. It's very different, the experience. That's what I have gotten from my resources, and how it's going to come back, the level at which it's going to come back. Those 40% of the private albergues that have gone out of business, all of the different regional accommodations apps, like Galicia is now allowing you to reserve the municipals, but none of the other regions allow that, not yet at least. It's very chaotic, and that's a really hard lesson to give people. But so I'm just kind of telling people, look back in July. In July, August, things should be calming down and settling, and we'll know more. But I don't remember what.
I don't agree though. I don't agree. I think that the nuts and bolts of what it means to be a pilgrim have not changed, nor will they change. So
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
Statistical things about how you make a reservation might be changing, but the basic inner and outer preparation doesn't change.
Yeah.
I
But
asked Rebecca Scott to be on our call the other night, and I'm glad she was there. She was able to give the lowdown on what's going on. But we start every meeting with, we can't tell you when you can go. We can't tell you what it's going to look like. But the inner journey and preparing for the outer journey haven't changed. So
Lisa, you're absolutely correct, except for
Yes.
people that have never done it, they don't get that.
They're not there. The new ones are like, how do I not fail?
Right.
And they're all about not failing.
that
And
hasn't changed though. We can talk about that, that hasn't changed.
I have a philosophical question for you. Are we just purely about the Camino, or should we be expanding it to spiritual pilgrimage, spiritual travel? Because there are so many pilgrimages across the world and even in the United States that it seems to me, to help our pilgrims who want to really experience that pilgrimage, can we not just also be pointing to other places where they can experience pilgrimage and spiritual travel? Because even at some of our gatherings, people have talked about the Camino Cotto, and I've been on that myself. And there are other pilgrimages that I hope to, that are on my bucket list, and I hope to do as well. So should we not be also expanding that to help out with this rush to people going on Camino?
Christine, I think that is an excellent, excellent point. And I've following some of the posts on Facebook. People have been making, recommendations to go on the Pacific Trail. There's one that just came on about Canada's just opened up a thing. We have the Mountain to Sea Trail in North Carolina. I mean, the Appalachia. I mean, lots of things. I think that is an excellent, excellent, excellent point. Thank you.
I would second that. Excellent point.
So, Bill, I know we had another thing that you wanted to talk about in relation to the questions that went out. Do you want to talk about those really quickly?
Well, the one question I got from Jeff Davies was asking about the grants program. We need mute.
Excuse me, Bill. Yeah,
someone
we need folks to mute themselves so Bill, we can hear Bill. Thanks. Go ahead, Bill.
So one, as far as other, I know on our website.
You have the headphones?
Yes.
Not with me.
Not sure how they
Okay,
work.
so as far as the looking into supporting other pilgrimages, and Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, I know I saw you on the call, that we do have information that leads folks to other information on other pilgrimages, whether it's the Via Francigena.
list?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have to
So-
sync them somehow.
Thought I did, but
So,
I don't think they're
but,
synced because I have a new phone.
Okay, Kathy
Okay, could
Sackett,
we
can
mute?
you mute yourself?
Okay.
thank you.
Kathy,
Yes, just a minute.
thank you.
Thanks. So as far as the other pilgrimages, I would suggest everyone start looking on our
I'm gonna mute
website.
myself.
I know,
Thank you.
okay, please mute. Thank you. Thanks. So that's one point. Now, as far as the questions that one of the questions that came in was with regard to grants and our plans for grants in 2021. So right now, we're trying, I think overall, what we're trying to do is remain flexible and to wait and kind of adopt a wait and see approach to how things come back and return from pause. And I think we believe that we're going to have a demand for grants, for requests. I mean, I think the deadline is today or soon. Within the next couple of days, all the applications for grants coming in are supposed to be in very shortly. So we have
Bill, it's February
currently-
1st. It's February 1st.
Okay, so we got about a week, more or less, week and a half. So that's when they're due. Then what we right now we're budgeting for $20,000 or $25,000, between $20,000 and $25,000 for grants, to fund grants this year, which is down from last year. However, there's a couple, we're kind of planning, I think, it to probably, will more likely probably fund more than that. It's just a matter of figuring out how things shake out with regard to sources of funds, how we do in terms of membership renewals, what other sources of funding we have, and that. And then we're also looking into dipping into reserves to fund additional amounts. But we first want to wait and see how much comes in and how much the potential need is. So one of the things that we talked about at the board meeting was that we're not exactly sure how this is all going to shake out. I heard someone saying that, some albergues have closed, we don't know really. It's kind of dynamic situation right now in terms of donativos, which is where most of the grant funding goes towards. So we don't really know what to expect yet in terms of overall. I mean, there's been a few applications, a few trickled in, but we're still kind of waiting on a waiting pattern here for that. So, but definitely the intention is to supply or fill the need as much as possible. And we're exploring alternatives to either by increasing from what we budgeted right now. So that's kind of where we are with grants. Does anybody have any questions about grants in general or the program or
I have a
anything
question.
that I've talked about? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Gene.
I have a question. The grants have typically been for, shall we say, bricks and mortar
Right.
infrastructure. Has there been discussion about allocating money for operational expenses?
Not a formal discussion. And as you may or may not be, as a former board member, you may know that we're prohibited from doing anything on an operating basis, right?
Okay.
But that's certainly not to say that we're going to look at ways to try to do that. One of the, for example, what Carmen brought up at the meeting was, okay, is there ways for us to fund this? Let's just say that there are needs to change for some ways to change because of COVID and social distancing or whatever. Is there a way to convert that into kind of a brick and mortar type situation versus an operating expense? So it's really working with the individual albergues to try to come up with develop something that would work under our structure. So that's kind of where we are with those, but really it's an unknown right now. So, but that's one example. I don't know if there's more. I did ask Carmen, to be honest with you, if there's a way that we can structure it legally, whether it's create a, some kind of adjunct type organization that would be able to do that kind of stuff in Spain. But she didn't seem to think that that was a viable option. So yeah, we are looking at it, just so that you know. It's something we're considering.
Bill,
Along those lines.
may I
Yes.
ask a question? As far as the grants, when they do occur, one of the things which we've found in the past is that we used to get descriptions of the grants, explaining what they are and how they're helping the Camino. And those descriptions were extremely good for pushing people over the line of parting with $60. So if we can get those in the future as the grants occur, it really shows to people who've walked the Camino and probably to a lesser part, people who are yet to walk it, but people who walk with the Camino, why they should join.
So I have a response for you that I think will make you happy. And I don't know if Allison or Jackie, you want to jump in on this, but what we're doing, what Ruben is doing, Ruben Mendoza is the board member who is responsible for administering the grant program. And what we've come up with, Megan and Ruben and others on the board, we're actually interviewing former albergue owners on video. We're doing videos and having them relay what their experience is and what we did to help them in terms of improve the albergues. And we're going to use those in various forms to showcase our accomplishments when it comes to grants. So it's not just going to be on paper. We're actually going to have short 5 to 10 minute videos that talk about and interview those particular owners, and we're going to use those to showcase what we've accomplished as far as improvements on and from grants.
Bill, can I ask a question, please? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I've been very curious because it seems like there has not been a lot of info coming directly from Spain to the American Pilgrims on the Camino to the chapters. And this is particularly your point that you're making about what's going on with the albergues. Since we have funded some of them, don't y'all have any direct communication with those folks, and can't they tell you what's going on?
We have multiple sources in Spain that Carmen is part of her role as an external relations for American Pilgrims. She's in contact and other people as well, but Carmen is probably the primary point person. So we have multiple sources. I mean, it's Rebecca. There's other federations that people that are involved in Spain.
Right.
So we're trying to talk to all those people. And right now, to be honest with you, things are in flux. I mean, there's not a lot of certainties. We don't know what to expect. For the most part, I think provinces across Spain are closed until the middle of May. That's where we are right now in terms of the impact of COVID that's going on right there. So, folks that are looking to do a spring Camino, that's very aggressive. They're probably not, it's probably not going to happen. So, you
let me-
know, I
let
mean,
me
at
ask-
the earliest, we're, you know, it's gonna be midsummer before we kind of
Well,
start to see
exactly,
any
but why
kind of
can't
flush.
y'all put out like a press release to tell people that instead of all this speculation that goes on and on and on? And that's where I feel like as a coordinator here in Charlotte, that this is me personally talking, that I feel kind of in the dark on. I mean, I read all this stuff and I get it, but to try to have something official to share with our membership, I don't really, I haven't felt that forthcoming.
So what I'm hearing is you want more frequent communication from us on the status of things.
Yes, even if it's like,
Okay.
even if it's like, we don't know anything, but it says American Pilgrims on the Camino, we don't know anything. That's
Well,
what
I'm even-
I want.
I'm even advising our folks who participate, not even to consider travel in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's reasonable to do
Yeah.
any international travel
Well-
until 2022.
Agree.
That's exactly what I do is, that's why I put together the document with the websites that I look at for status. That way I don't have to be on record deciding for them whether something is or is not. They can look it and they can do their own research.
Well,
That's what
Sharon, I do that
That's
as
how I
well.
solved it.
I
They ask
send
me
all that
questions, I
stuff
go,
too.
check the form, check,
I send out everything that I get, that I see, that I think my chapter would be interested in. But at the same time, I still kind of feel like there's a responsibility for us to be kind of like the voice and being the authority, so to speak, to say, this is the way it is, rather than just saying, well, here's this resource.
we
you go on this
can't
line.
do that.
Okay, all right.
Well, I mean, what I'm hearing is that you want more frequent communication regarding, as we kind of go through and work through returning from pause, and as we
Yeah.
kind of work through the vaccinations and what.
So that
and
I-
that's
so
fine.
we can pass it
I will
on.
go back. Right. I'll go back and we'll talk about it. We'll talk to Carmen
Okay.
and see if there's some things that we can do to work on to help disseminate
you, Bill.
information about what's going on in the Camino, right? You know, as we
Thank
kind
you,
of work
Bill.
through this. You're welcome.
Can I make a suggestion about that? It might be good just to
Sure.
have just some, like a little bulleted thing that you send
Yeah,
out, some
yeah.
links to everybody every month, because we all send out a newsletter.
Mhm.
And we could just put that in there, like the latest from American Pilgrims. Here are
Right,
some
absolutely.
best
Thank
links.
you,
And then,
Martha.
and then we just pass it on, and it doesn't have to be a lot.
Right.
Everybody can
exactly.
do it if they want to. But it'd be
Um,
nice to
um,
have it, it would be nice to have it standardized.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Sure.
Bill, I was
I,
gonna
I,
mention.
I have,
you-
An
I'm
email
sorry.
to all the,
I have yet to see anything come from
and we
American
can share it
Pilgrim.
with the non.
Well, one at a time, please. Okay, one at a time. Thanks.
I have yet to see anything from American Pilgrims about the Holy Year being extended. And I think that that's something that we should put out. It doesn't mean you're supposed to believe in the Holy Year, whatever. People should hear from us as well. It could be just as an announcement on the Facebook page.
So,
Agreed.
And
So
on
say-
our website,
Yeah.
because I personally am pretty much done with Facebook. But that, here's the official announcement saying,
Yes.
link to the official announcement saying, be the source of the source, that the Holy Year has been extended, and here's the information. But I have yet to see anything from American Pilgrims about it.
Right.
I will
Agreed.
raise the issue about more frequent communication overall on the status of the Camino, including the Holy Year and other things, so that as things kind of leach out of Spain, we'll try to be timely in terms of that communication. So and share that information with everyone.
I'd
I'd also
one
recommend
second.
CDC information and also travel information from TSA about where it's safe to travel.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that Jean is very kindly putting in some links in the chat too. So I just want to also send you over to the chat as well.
Hey, Bill,
Is there a way for the,
Hang
like,
on,
once
I
the
think
meeting
Michael
is
had-
over
Mike-
for us to get the chat content? Or do we have to go grab it right now?
You can save it yourself at the end of the meeting.
The meeting.
Okay.
We'll have it.
This is,
Vince will do that.
This
Yeah.
is Vince. The meeting is being recorded. And if I set it up correctly, it will also capture the chat.
Excellent. Thank you.
But if you can, capture it yourself before the meeting closes in case I messed up somehow.
Mike, you
I was
wanted, you had
gonna-
a question?
Yeah, well, I was gonna circle back. You had mentioned about the grant and the grant video. And one of my fellow coordinators who's on this meeting tonight, John Kennedy and I, we are working with Ruben on the grants committee. And what we've suggested to him was what you have already said was, why don't we make this a video so that the video can be easily used and gotten out to the chapters as a tool. So here's what we specifically have right now. We'll be meeting with Ruben on a Zoom meeting Thursday. We have 16 minutes and 43 seconds worth of video. And we start off and we talk about maybe some people saw the interview that Carmen was involved in at Don regarding the Camino Talks. Okay, and they talk a little bit in there about the grant program. Then if you were at, and you may have seen it, if Bill recorded it, which I think he did, there was Carmen did a grant committee presentation at Lake Tahoe. So we've taken both of those together. They're in iMovie. And then right now we have two we call it testimonials. That's what we're saying that we're getting, is the testimonials from two albergues. So they're in the iMovie. So you get the education part first, and then you hear the really good stuff. You see what our money is going toward. They're translated into English using subtitles, and we hope to get 1 to 2 more videos. So we're about ready to wrap it up, and then we'll turn it on over to Ruben. And one of the recommendations that John and I have made is that we show this in Indiana, if Indiana will let us, in July, we'll let the grants committee do that and or make a presentation on the grants. The other thing is, and you mentioned it earlier, which I think is very pertinent, regarding this coordinators meeting, I recommend, and again, that would be through Ruben, I can't believe you would have an issue with this, that there be some kind of education regarding the grant process for coordinators, so that everybody knows the history of it, knows how long we're doing, what some of the things are, the challenges, and that sort of thing. And I understand you're in the process, Allison, of planning that as we speak. But there's a lot coming out regarding these videos. And then as I understand it, these videos, as more people, as this becomes the paradigm for albergues and projects, they submit the videos, that these videos would be then released after they're approved and translated. They would be released out to the chapter as a way to encourage people to continue to support this wonderful program that we call the grant program. So I just thought I'd pass that along to people, that a lot is coming in that regard.
I think.
Can I jump in?
I think it's.
Yeah, that's John.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
If I can jump in real quickly.
Can I speak afterwards? Thanks.
Yeah.
So it's so to piggyback on Mike's point, it's wet cement right now, right? We're still developing the content and the vehicle for these presenting these testimonials, but we're looking at this first video as kind of the template that lays the groundwork with a couple testimonials baked into it. Then from there, it sets up a process where we can get more testimonials as they come in and release those, right? So that this process versus event-based approach allows us to tell the story of this grant program and the wonderful work that's doing through testimonials. And the two that we've seen so far are very compelling. I mean, they're talking about plumbing replacements in one of the albergues, and the gentleman walks through where the new pipes have been installed, how the temperature changes because of the heating upgrades that they've made. So those are real things that'll help pilgrims on their way, right? And also help those albergue owners. So just wanted to share that. Again, work in progress, but there are some things in works.
Thanks, John. Thanks. Appreciate it.
I
ahead.
think the grants program is immensely important, and it's probably one of the premier things that we do as an organization. But I think there are a lot of people out there who want to do a pilgrimage, want to go on Camino, who probably aren't really care about the grants program. But how can we get those folks to become a member of the American Pilgrims on Camino? Because I think as a bottom line for the organization, the more members we have, the more benefits that we can give to people who want to become a member, I think the better. So the grants program is outstanding. Don't get me wrong about that, but let's not just promote the grants program as a benefit of being a member. Let's really, truly work on, and the video we've done in the past has been nice, but what kinds of extra benefits can we really tell our members, hey, join up. This is what we have to offer you.
That's a very good point, Christine. Jackie or Allison, do you want to talk about the conversations we've had as a board on strategies for membership and how it dovetails into this?
Hey guys, yeah, we're
Yeah, sorry, my husband is speaking, so you might hear him in the background too. He's in a different Zoom meeting right now. So yes, we have been continuing to look at membership and exactly what you guys are saying, to kind of have some of those conversations of what are the benefits of membership, what do you give and get as a member, you know, we're having some of those conversations as a board. I think it is part of a
Allison, I can't
larger
hear you. I can't understand you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna let Jackie or Bill talk then, because it might be my husband is too loud.
Well, I'm not actually on the membership committee. I have been obviously privy to the board conversations, but I kind of want to flip this a little bit and say, for example, Christine, what do you think are the values of membership? What to you are, you know, why are you a member?
Well, I think the value basically is the camaraderie that we have, and basically all the resources that we provide for people, and just the other opportunities, the gathering, the Hospitalero program. I think all of those are benefits. Now, what I'm not totally clear on, how much of those resources are available to non-members? Should there be a on the website, a member view and a non-member view? I don't know. You know, as we talk about we and us, is that something to consider? But that's certainly not being the unified and the inclusive piece that Bill was speaking of earlier.
I'm curious just in general, you know, because we talk a lot about this at the board meeting, but what are your, you know, where do you all see the benefit? Why are you a member of this organization? Yes, I see your hand up, Lisa.
Thank you. I've been around since 2014, and we've been having this conversation since 2014, and probably long before I got around. One thing we don't usually do is talk about people who aren't members having the opportunity to contribute to the grant program.
Okay.
Just outside of being a member, everybody, we used to have 3,000 people on the Facebook page. Every once in a while, an announcement on the Facebook page saying, you know, this is our grant program, this is what we do. Everybody could contribute, even through a link on Facebook. We would be bringing in a heck of a lot more money. A heck of a lot more money. So trying to sell it as a piece of your $50, or somebody just said $60, I'm due to renew, so I don't know what it is now. That trying to sell it as a piece of your $60, to me, is an outdated way to look at this.
Okay.
And that everybody who's out there participating, benefiting from our information, benefiting from our program, should have the opportunity and be invited specifically to contribute to the grant program. And this is our movie, and this is why. So even if you don't want to be a member, you can and are invited to and are encouraged to participate and hit this button and you're contributing. I think you would see a huge increase. We have always had a difficulty identifying who we are and who we want to be. Are we a membership organization, or are we a globally inclusive organization? We have moved to, if you want to see the membership list, if you want access to the members, you have to be a member. That's one thing that is already exclusive on the website. I think it's important to know what we already do. I don't think we talk enough about the Hospitalero grants. And when I did the workshop on being a volunteer on the Camino last week, I talked about that grant is so that this is not only for those who can afford to go and serve, because not everybody can afford to go and pay their way to Spain, pay their way for the Hospitalero training. And they might be the best hospi in the whole wide world. And it shouldn't be limited to the financial ability to do that. That's why the hospi grants are so near and dear to my heart. But we don't go out and ask for that money. We rely on people to find their way to it. And they're not going to just wander their way into that deep into the website and figure out, oh, I could give to this Michael Wyatt grant. We need to give people a reason to, and we need to make sure they know the whys and the why fors. We also don't do any fundraising as a chapter. I know my chapter doesn't. We've never done fundraising. We don't even pass the hat.
Well, and there is a reason for that.
Well,
there is a
reason. I've been through Carmen's workshop 3 times. However, leaving a donation bucket at the front for the scholarships program is not going to violate anything. So we have mechanisms that we could be doing. We could be having a walkathon to fund a scholarship. We could do that as a chapter. We're going to fund a Hospitalera. We could do a lot of different things that we don't do.
Well, I will tell you this. I want you to hold on a little bit, because we as a board have been talking about solicitation and fundraising and how do we make this so that we are compliant in every state. And so we don't have to worry about that. And we have taken some steps toward getting into complete compliance. Okay, so that you can do just what you're talking about and not feel like, oh my gosh, well, I just have to have a bucket at the front and all that kind of stuff. So I will say, and Bill, I think I'm speaking in turn on that. I'm not speaking out of turn, that we are looking at that and should have some news by this spring. Correct.
Yeah, but they've been looking at that for years.
I know. And we have had a long, lengthy discussion about just that we've been looking at it for years, and every time the board gets together, apparently they talk about it. And one of the statements was, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I want us to do something, do it right, get it done, so we don't have to talk about it anymore and we can move on, so that there's not any question.
Well, so, I mean,
appreciate that.
It's in the early, just to supplement what Jackie's saying is, yes, we are looking at right now exploring ways to third-party organizations to help us get compliant or be in compliance with fundraising activities across the U.S. At this point, it's going to remain centralized at the national or the national level, not within each chapter. That's not the thought right now. Just not saying that it won't happen in the future, but right now it's baby steps. So we're looking at that. And also, to answer your question, Lisa, I think, one of the major concerns and major points of conversation about this is having a strategy for membership that dovetails with a fundraising strategy, so that we understand that we are a membership driven organization. Okay, we're not looking to change that. And that's the premise that we're working under. Certainly looking towards, we've got data that says here's where our, we had about 1,500 donations, individual donations last year. Our average donation is $25. Okay, that's on the donation side. That doesn't and that doesn't include credentials. That's just basic, unsolicited, general people just come to the website and donate, whether it's because we sent out a letter on COVID or whatever it is, and people happen to willing to give us a few dollars. That's primarily how the funds have been coming in. We're not sourcing any large dollar donations. That's not our intention or our strategy to do that. So certainly Fundraising is an important component. It's going to be used carefully, just as much as we want to have a good strategy so that welcoming and all-inclusive being a member and what that does and what it says about you as a person as part of the fellowship of within the Camino. Those are important strategies and important factors to also take into consideration. So certainly, I think we all, and I would echo your ideas around some further support of the Hospitality program as well. It's a worthy program. We've trained over 600 people. And certainly if we can find ways to provide some help and financial assistance to those that can't afford it, no one's going to look at that in a heart. We'd all certainly like to be able to do that kind of stuff. So more to come on that. We're working through them. It's going to take us a little bit of time, but we're getting there. So I hope that helps. Any other questions?
Bill, there's a question in the chat about a recap of the surveys listed in the agenda.
The surveys listed in what agenda? I guess I'm not understanding the question.
I think it was the chapter surveys is my guess what they're talking about.
So I can talk briefly about it. I think it went a little bit better this year in terms of the release of we set on a separate Excel spreadsheet. Hopefully, I know people had some issues with the math. And I thought about sending out another one, but I didn't, if people do have problems, I've only had 2 complaints so far. We've got about 15 responses or so back from chapters, so we got a ways to go yet. People have asked me about the mailing lists and in terms of what they're used for and why, and then making sure that we're not selling or soliciting, selling those information to outside parties, and we don't do that neither with our membership list or chapter list. So no one's being solicited or going to be looking to sell those to make any kind of dollars off of that. And primarily why we're asking for them is exactly what I said in my communication, is that it's a backup situation. If something were to happen to the chapter coordinators, or we had a couple chapters go dormant and then we're trying to reestablish them and we don't have information and we're starting from scratch, and it just makes it a lot more difficult. So from a backup perspective, that's why we're asking for them right now. It's just to say we have them, something happens, we have access to the information if need be. But right now there's no other use for it. So any other questions on the survey? And please, please be generous in your feedback, just like tonight. It's invaluable information and pros and cons. We want to hear the good and the bad about things, and because otherwise we can't help you, and it's much easier for us to kind of compile information and look at that and take it as strategy and how to respond to those issues, whatever they are, in terms of across the country. So appreciate the effort to make that happen. Somebody else has a question. Is there any other questions on the survey? Any specific?
There's one in the chat that says, will there be some kind of summary given to coordinators once the data is compiled?
Sure. I have no issue with that. I did one last year. There was a summary in La Concha in the June issue last year. If people want to look, the summary from last year's survey was in June's La Concha. I just looked at it. I sent it to Emilio for other purposes. So yeah, it's there.
Can I just ask a quick question? And maybe this is a better question for Jean. American Pilgrims owns the Gmail accounts. So every contact, every email contact that's in the Gmail accounts already is available to and belongs to American Pilgrims. So I'm not sure why you're asking for the lists again, because you already own those and you already have access to those.
Not everybody keeps their list in Gmail. We keep ours in MailChimp.
Correct. We do too in St. Louis.
That's where messages go from.
Aren't you importing it from Gmail to MailChimp?
No.
No?
MailChimp is the place.
If I remember correctly, about 80% of the chapters use MailChimp. There's only a small percentage of chapters that don't use it, that use other
Then
other
what's
apps.
their email address then? Because ours is boston@americanpilgrims.org. every email contact that goes to that chapter email is in the contacts and belongs to American Pilgrims. And then we import that to MailChimp. So if you have a policy across the board where that's your email address, boston@americanpilgrims.org, American Pilgrims owns that email address. Therefore, every contact that goes to boston@americanpilgrims.org is always available to American Pilgrims. We upload that every time we do a new MailChimp mailing, because there's been additions over the course of the week where people have emailed in and said, add me to your list or whatever. I want to come to your webinar. Those automatically are added. And then every MailChimp, we just update that and it goes. So you already own those.
Lisa, this is Vince. We don't, that's what you do. We don't put any contacts in our Gmail account. That's where we receive messages. We keep all of our contacts and we do all of our communication from MailChimp. And that tells people who want to communicate with us to send messages to our Gmail account. So we use Gmail to receive messages, not to send messages.
And also Gmail for one-to-one communication. If some chapter member emails about something, you can carry on a conversation inside Gmail. I think as all you know, there's a limit to the number of addresses you can have in an outgoing Gmail message. Some systems will reject them if they see too many.
Right. That's why we upload to MailChimp every time. But anybody who emails into or out of Gmail, that's captured as a contact.
I think you're doing a lot more work than you need to be.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is,
we simply don't put any contacts in Gmail. We just don't do it.
That's what
right. And my guess is the chapters do have those, but they're not organizing them in the contact list in Gmail. They're using MailChimp to do that. That's the application that they're used to maintain their contact list. It's not Gmail. But granted, you'll have the contact list because everything that gets auto-populated in Gmail, but most folks are organizing themselves via MailChimp. So technically, Lisa, you're right. I would believe you're right, but there's a varied amount of expertise around technology across the country. So we are in somewhat technology challenged in some respects around using it. So whatever works best for folks, I don't necessarily want to mandate. I don't think anyone would want us to mandate that you have to do it this way. Whatever is easiest and what works, as long as we have access to the information, it works fine with us. I think it's kind of just based on my experience last year with dealing with the surveys and other technology. It's just it's been a challenge. Even MailChimp is a challenge for folks, honestly, and that's one of the reasons why one of our objectives is to identify training needs for folks and understand, so to help them conquer some of these learning curves and these challenges. But it's a good point. I'm glad you raised it. Makes us think about it. Anybody else?
I'd like to toss out an event idea. Several of you, a bunch of you may be on email lists for multiple chapters. I don't know how many people do that. I am. And a couple months ago, there was an email from Texas Gulf Coast announcing a trivia contest. And I thought that really sounded cool. So I sent this on to the Colorado Front Range coordinators, and we joined. We responded. And I won't tell you where we came in the contest because that's a little embarrassing. But it was such a great idea that we decided to reproduce it, a trivia contest. But because these things are virtual, there's no limit on who can take part. Absolutely none. So we picked out quasi-randomly Southeast Virginia chapter, Tampa Bay, Boise, and we contacted the coordinators there and said, we're doing this. If this sounds like something you want to do, advertise it, have people sign up. And we had people from all around the country. including Tom Friesen from Canada and an Hospitalera friend of ours in England. So these virtual events, if you do something that's, you think's kind of interesting, get some other chapters involved. It was a hoot. It really was.
Thanks, Jean. That's great. And just as a reminder also to put events on the coordinator website.
This is Vince, the co-host. Let me just barge in here a minute. I think that's a great idea, Gene. I'm on several mailing lists and I've joined some presentations by other chapters. It's a great way to learn new information. We're starting to drop off and lose some of our participants. It'd be great to continue discussing new topics. Let me suggest to Bill and the board that we let Jeff Stiles do a short presentation or description of what the next coordinator forum town hall will be in March. He'd like to do that. And I would also ask Bill if someone wants to talk about the Jubilee that's coming up in July.
Yeah.
And any other, we've already covered the workshop. So maybe, why don't we let Jeff go and then you can do the Jubilee and anything else you want.
Thanks, Vince. So your coordinator team really is thinking about how do we make these calls valuable? Like, I love the conversation today. In March, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have, I don't know if you can see this, Rebecca Scott. Some of you may know her. She lives on the Camino. She'll do a reading from her book, and she'll also tell us about what's been going on the Camino during COVID. So
wonderful.
If you know Rebecca, she's I'd call her a truth teller. I really enjoy her. So really connecting us back to the reason we're all involved in this. So
Dan Mullins interviewed her on his podcast, so you could hear that if you wanted.
So one of the things, because she's in Spain, we'll be doing it on a Saturday, March 6th, and I will send a save the date to everybody soon and put something on our website. So I'm very excited, and we'll be glad to see you all again in March.
Right.
Thanks, Vince.
Okay,
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Celebration. We are continuing to work on planning and getting things in place to attempt to have a celebration in July, the weekend of St. James' birthday, in South Bend at St. Mary's College, which is adjacent to or right across the road from Notre Dame. There is a full list of activities. It's going to be different than your typical, it's not necessarily going to be in the format that people are accustomed to with the gathering. I think there's an intention, and Allison probably can speak to this, but there's intention to be much more active around doing different projects like hikes, for example, some other activities around that. But we'll have some other things too in terms of presentations, but some other ideas are being thrown around. One of which was having a pilgrim band, having a pilgrim ensemble to do that as well. So there's some different ideas. And we're working through making sure that I think the idea is that by that time, a good chunk of folks should be vaccinated. So we're hoping that we won't encounter any kind of issues around COVID, that will be pretty much tried to get past it, but we'll see what happens. At this point, we're still in flux on that. So there's more to come. There's some uncertainty around that, obviously. So we have to make a hard and fast decision sometime at the beginning or so in April. Sometime in April, I think, is when the hard and fast decision is going to be made, a hard line about a go or no go. Just because we had to make certain deposits and make some financial commitments to do that. So that's kind of where we are with it. But folks are diligently working on it and trying to.
Are you going to try to piggyback a chapters coordinators meeting on that?
We may or may not. I don't necessarily think we are. I think the virtual meeting is the intention, rather than have a physical meeting this year, just so that we'd have more people to attend virtually and do it that way versus having people come, but certainly open to it.
Couldn't it be hybrid?
We can get together. Yeah, we can try to do some kind of get together for coordinators that are there. But
But we could
I don't know,
also have-
Allison, correct me wrong. I don't know if we are or not, but I know we talked about it a little bit, but I'm not sure exactly where we stand on it yet. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
I
don't
don't.
have the full program in development yet either, right? It's still kind of, pieces are being moved around the
Right.
board.
Well,
Correct.
while you're putting it together, I would love to have that piggybacked on and a virtual at the same time so that people can join virtually or in person. Even
Yeah,
if it's
we've definitely discussed the possibility of doing a virtual component of it as well, definitely.
Any other questions on the celebration? This has been really helpful for me too, to hear everybody's feedback on different things and different perspectives.
Well, if everybody is interested, this coming Monday, our webinar is on the Via Poriensis on the Voie du Puy. So we'll have two multi-time veterans of the Voie du Puy talking on Monday night, and anybody's welcome to join us.
Thank you. I plan to be there. This is Vince. I was on one of your earlier ones, and I also noticed that you have the Portuguese coming up later on. So
Yeah, and the Primitivo, and I'm a Camino 101, and I'm going to be doing the Unpacking Your Camino post-Camino workshop too. So I think we have 5 more coming up every other Monday.
So folks need to
here's
go
some-
to the national calendar. You've got your programs posted on the calendar, and you can find out the program and either get the link or register to receive the link. There's a lot of information on that national calendar. In fact, Charlotte's got a meeting coming up on the 19th that's really good. We're going to have Rosa Torres talk about the one from Lafayette. Where what is it? Well, I can't remember. It's the one from north to south in Spain that ends down here in Barcelona.
Ignacio.
Ignaciano, thank you. Thank you. Mike's going to save me.
So I have a question for folks. I mean, in terms of Zoom usage, I looked at the Zoom usage over the last 3 months since we implemented it, and we've had, let's see, 27 meetings across those couple months. So it's picked up in December. We had 11. Attendance, we've had 150, 350, almost 500 people that have attended these meetings, and we're talking about 600 or 700 hours of Zoom time. So I'm happy to see that it's being used. Are there any suggestions or ideas around that folks or issues that people are having that I should know about or I should be aware of?
Yeah, Bill, this is Vince. We can talk later, but I just think as more people learn how useful this is, we may start getting traffic jams on the national chapter. For instance, Charlotte, we have 50 meetings a year, but we're doing them on our own account. But hey, if there's a national account, we may not renew ours and just jump on the national account next March.
Right. I'm one of the things that I need to understand better myself, and I'm not an expert in it, but I know we can have 2 meetings, but we can't have 2 meetings when they're the same license. So that's a difference that people need to understand. So to the extent that you can schedule your meeting separately from what's already on the calendar, please do so. Because we've encountered some issues around concurrent meetings. So please try to avoid it at all possible. And if you really have to have the meeting, please let me know. And
I have a question, please. I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt.
Sure. Yeah.
Two
Go
things.
ahead, Donna.
Number one, I've been doing our Zooms on an account that I set up before the national one. But like Ben says, I'll get rid of mine and eventually. Where do I find the national calendar? If I guess I'm a little confused. Is that?
This is Vince. On the American Pilgrims website is the calendar where people post their events. Is that the calendar you're mentioning, or do you want to know how to log into the national Zoom account?
No, I guess my question is, for example, if I wanted to go to the webinar in Boston, where do I find that information? And if I wanted to do a Zoom on the national account, where do I find that information to do that? Does that make sense?
Two different places. Go to the American Pilgrims website of the calendar for local chapter events. That's where you find what Boston is doing. And you find it there only because Boston takes the initiative to post the information there. Then the other one.
Thank you.
Allison has done you a favor. It's right there in the chat.
Okay.
The link to it is in the chat. So if you look in the
I
chat
know,
under,
I appreciate
yeah.
the fact that it's in the chat, but it's really important that I'm able to do it myself. And go to
Sure,
the
but at least
source.
if you click on it, then you will see, and you can cut and paste the website address is what I'm
Look at
saying.
the entry page with the
It's
website.
really,
It's obvious.
yeah. I wish everybody was using the national calendar. First
No,
of
I
all,
think
it's
that's a
a
great
recruit.
reminder, and I appreciate that.
It's a recruitment tool. If you want to know why you should be a member, a full calendar of events is the best advertisement we can have. So,
Right, plus any
if
random
you-
people that come to the website that are in your area, they automatically know what's going on or what's
Right.
coming up on the.
So
in
it's a
terms of
huge
events.
advertisement as well as outreach. But if you're on AmericanPilgrims.org, you just click on local chapters and it has a drop down for the calendar. So you can see it looks pretty empty right now, even though I know there's stuff going on. So
And I think we've been delinquent in getting ours in there for a number of reasons, but I appreciate the reminder. So that's a good takeaway from this meeting.
And Donna, as far as the Zoom access, you should have the login and password I sent an email.
Oh, I'm sure I do, Bill. I just haven't
Yeah.
looked because I had already, prior to you doing that,
Right,
they had a big sale on it. I set it up. I use it.
Mhm.
I have no issue. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, great. I just letting you know that it's there. If
I
you want to look at what's going on, it's another way to get access to the chapter events in case someone doesn't post them on the
No, I
calendar.
appreciate that.
If you log into the Zoom account, you can see the meeting schedules.
Well, go to that national calendar and join the Charlotte meeting on the 19th with Rosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, Terry, that's a good idea as far as, posting things about advertising stuff that's going on in chapters in the full Facebook American Pilgrim Facebook page. So, as well as local chapters.
Yeah.
So.
Bill, in regards to the Zoom, do you have it set up that we can have a co-host and that the co-host can help and have people come in? Because when I've gone to that before, I've struggled in terms of trying to get the co-host set up and so forth. So
Christine,
I
when
believe
you,
there's no limitation.
yeah, Christine, when you set up a meeting, you can go, in fact, I think this is Vince's meeting right now.
We can do that ourselves.
He can then make
Right.
me a co-host, you a co-host, and it gives the co-host the same rights in the meeting
Great.
as the host.
Okay, so we'll just need to make sure that when one of the other sets
Yep.
up the meeting
Yep.
is that's set up.
Yes,
Great.
and one of the ideas, just a Zoom tip, because I know some of us are on Zoom a lot, especially in big meetings, it's very helpful if one person is running the meeting, like looking, but then one person
Right.
is also running the chat also, especially those of you who have a lot of people attending your meetings.
This is Vince. One comment on using the national account. I have 3 Zoom personalities, my personal one, the one I use for the Charlotte meetings, and the one I'm using now, which is the national account. I have to be very careful which one I'm in. The first time I joined a Boston meeting, I logged in with the same account, with the account we're using right now, which is the national account, which is the account Boston was trying to use. And I basically horned in as a co-host that I wasn't supposed to be doing that. So I had to back out and log back in as myself. So if you become a user of the national account, be very thoughtful about not using that account when you then log into somebody else's meeting. You'll mess them up.
Right. And so what you need to do is sign out of it, and you go into settings, and at the bottom of the page, you'll see that there's a sign out button. And so basically just sign out after you're done with either setting up your meeting or done with your meeting. Make sure you sign out of the account, because it's just one license we have. So, and that's why, Vince, that's why we need to do that. So I appreciate that. It's a good point, Vince. Good point. Really good point. I've done it myself, so.
Yep. I think Miriam logged in tonight using the national account. She's sitting up there as a co-host, so I think she probably used the national account.
Any other questions, issues, concerns?
I have one other quick, am I muted? Hold on. No, I'm not. And this goes back I'm sorry, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier on, but I couldn't get in. And this is in regard to keeping us, having a central place for the most current information that's coming from the Camino. When COVID first started, and I'm not saying Facebook is the end all be all, but that's where a lot of folks go for their information. When this first started, the administrators and APOC were very careful to have I don't know that it was a link or a separate, I don't remember what it was because I don't think it's there anymore, but that's where all the most current stuff and the honest to God stuff went.
It's
And
still
they said
there.
that.
It's still there.
Is it still there? And how do you,
It's still there.
okay,
I updated it
how do
this
you find
afternoon.
it? What would I look for to get that? Because Facebook is, huge, and we have lots and lots of people that are just.
It's not on Facebook, it's on our website.
Pardon?
It's on our website on the front page.
It's not on Facebook, it's on the website, correct?
The American Pilgrims website. Donna, I can send you I'll send you the link.
No, I understand.
To get the.
Right, I understand it's on the website, but what I'm saying was, when this first started, right there on Facebook, there was.
Oh, I see. On Facebook, there was a pegged announcement at the top of the page.
That came
Right.
from American
Right.
Pilgrims, so that it kind of, separated the stuff that was not, where it basically
normal
said,
traffic.
this is the bottom line. This is the accurate information. This is the official information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you will look at the website in the menu, American Pilgrims is the first item. Look at the drop down, right down toward the bottom is a blog.
Okay.
Also on the entry page, if you will scroll a little bit down on the page, there is I forget what it's called, breaking news or something.
Okay.
And there's a link in there to the same thing. And there's a lot more in the blogs than just
Well,
this.
maybe that's what it is, Gene. I didn't know where the blog was.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll find it.
Yeah.
If you need help, Donna, just let me know. I'm
Okay,
happy to
because
help.
I was doing a Camino 101 the other day, and I really struggled to make sure I found all the information I wanted, but it was a real struggle to get the latest and greatest and separate all the, basic, a lot of just stuff that's not accurate that's
Yeah.
on Facebook, and I don't want to put
Yeah.
those things out.
Chris Petty mentioned a while ago El País, the English version of the Spanish national newspaper. If you really want to stay on top of this, you should be looking at that 3-4 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other